So today we're gonna be talking about a few things that are going to help you elevate the design of your own base. These are actually one of the biggest visual upgrades to my base, so I figured that I would share this with you guys so that you can apply it in your base as well. I'm going to show you how I use these decorations on my main base, and I've also created another base just to give you an idea of what type of builds that this will complement. Greyhaven is a hack and slash ARPG where you can explore and rescue a variety of beautiful characters from dungeons, and you can also build a village together. This game is composed of a dungeon-centered main story and a bunch of side quests that are all filled with rich cutscenes and stories. You can challenge higher difficulties by combining different buffs within the dungeon, and you can also transform into the appearance of other villagers by utilizing specific objects. And lucky for you, they're actually having a 25% discount during the Steam Spring Sale, and it's going to start from March 15 up to March 22nd. So if all of this looks good to you, then I highly recommend checking out Greyhaven using my link in the description below. A big thank you to Greyhaven for sponsoring this video. Now back to the content. So the first one is going to be about how you can place different kinds of trees around your base, or basically anywhere you want to. And for this, we're gonna be using the tree mod asset swap by Jack Lowe. This type of mod is actually very easy to use, so even if you haven't tried using mods before, I'm sure that you will not have any problems adding this to your game. Later on, I'll be showing you how to install the mods that I have in this video, but first, let's go over what you can expect from this and how this actually works. So just like what the name says, it's basically going to swap out the textures for specific items and turn it into one of the trees in Palworld. And for this one, it's going to replace the traffic light and the different signs that are included in the road sign set, which is available at level 46. I think that this is actually really good because not many people use the road signs for decorations anyways, and if you're going for a nature themed or even like a rustic style build, then you're probably not going to use these structures because they are just going to look out of place. And so after you install this mod, this is how your signs are going to look like. And the traffic light is now going to be a very big tree that you will often see around the Gobfin's Turf and the Island Hopper Coast region. The Nopal sign is going to turn into bamboo. The stop sign is going to look like one of the bigger trees around the map. The deer sign is going to turn into one of the skinnier trees. And then the Mamorest sign will be this type of tree where it's very crooked, but there's a bunch of leaves and trees going around. One more thing that I like about this is that the collision box is not very strict, so in return, it's not very restrictive. For the most part, only the main part of the tree has a collision box, so basically just the trunk. And there's no collision for the branches and the leaves, so you're going to have an easier time when you decide to add this in your builds. Let's say that you wanted to make some sort of tree house. Normally, that is going to be difficult because you are limited when it comes to where you can actually build a tree house, and a few other things can also go wrong, like for example, you can accidentally break the tree. But if you have this mod, what you can do is you can build the initial foundations and then the rest of the decorations for your tree house, and then you can simply plop down the tree right at the center or basically anywhere you want to put it. One thing to keep in mind is that after you place the tree and actually build it, you can no longer overlap or build over the branches and the leaves. So if you want to place different structures that you think are going to be overlapped with the tree, then definitely make sure that you place those structures first before you go ahead and place the tree. And aside from a tree house, I actually find this mod to be really useful because a lot of times I find myself having trouble figuring out what I should put in the empty areas around my base. Like for example, over at my farming base, this area is going to look empty and will not look as good if I did not have the trees in the middle of different structures. Of course, it's going to depend on what kind of theme you're going for, but if you're going for a similar nature themed or a rustic style base, then this is going to be a great addition. But even if you have a completely different style, I feel like this is still going to look good, especially if you put it on empty spaces around your base. The next one is going to be very similar to the first mod, but this time it's going to replace the barriers and turn it into different types of rock formation. For this one, I actually used this to complement the existing rock formations or basically any landmass to give it more personality per se. I don't like it when the area is too flat, especially if I'm not using the flat surface for anything. So what I like to do is I try to find something that looks good and use it to fill up the space and make it look more interesting. But the only problem with this is that we don't really really have a ton of decorations that can fill up those empty spaces in a way that makes sense. Initially, this area looked empty, so I decided to make some sort of fountain, but obviously, I can't do that for all of the empty spaces in my base. So having this as well as the other mod is really useful because natural decoration is almost never going to look repetitive, especially if you style it correctly. But overall, these two mods are actually very useful because you're giving yourself more options when it comes to natural decorations, and you're also not losing anything important, especially if you're not using the decorations that are getting replaced. And for the next one, this is going to be optional, but I figured that I should mention this because it's also part of my build. And what I'm specifically talking about is the Plaster Wall texture swap by Jack Lowe. All these mods are actually done by him, so a big shout out to Jack Lowe because these are great additions for builders in Palworld. This one is a very simple mod where it basically replaces the textures for the wooden structures in this game. I honestly like how it looks because even though it's a mod, it actually fits really well with the other textures in the game. I've seen other texture mods, but a lot of them actually look really out of place because they either look very plasticky or they have too much saturation on the colors. I also like using this mod because it gives a clear separation between the wall, floor, stairs, and even the roof. So having the walls be a different color gives it a better look in my opinion. And then for the next part, I'll be showing you how to install these mods so that you can have this in your own game. All of the mods in this video will be linked in the description below, and every single one of them is going to be a pack file, so you're going to install them the same way. And so after you click the link in the description, you're going to be sent to Nexus Mods. And then what you would want to do is click manual, click on slow download, and it's probably going to ask you to sign in. I like to install all of my Palworld mods in a separate folder on my desktop because that is going to let me keep a copy of the mod file just in case I want to disable the mod, but I still want to add it back later on without having to download again. And after you download, simply extract the file and you should be able to see the pack file for the specific mod that you have installed. And then next up, go ahead and copy the pack file, and then after that, we're going to navigate into the next folder. If you are playing Palworld on Steam, all you have to do is to right click Palworld, go down to manage, and browse local files. And then next up, open up Pal, content, and then packs. This is where you're going to paste the pack file, and then you should be ready to go once you open up the game. But if you have the Game Pass version of Palworld, then I will have a link in the description below to a complete guide for installing mods for that specific version of Palworld. And before I end this video, I do want to mention that for future reference, if you're adding more mods into your game, be sure that whatever mod that you install is actually not interfering with this mod. And what I mean by that is, if you're going to install another mod, make sure that they're not going to change the textures of the specific items that are mentioned in this video. You're looking at the traffic lights and the different signs for the tree mod. For the placeable rocks mod, it's going to be the different barriers. And then obviously for the plaster wall, that is going to replace the textures for all of the wooden wall types. So just for future reference, make sure that you're not using two different mods that are basically manipulating the same thing. But with that being said, that is pretty much everything I have for this video. If you found this video useful, definitely make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.